say war leaves scars on the land, but what if some wounds never truly heal? Across the world, there are places where silence is shattered by phantom gunfire, where mist moves like soldiers in formation, and where visitors swear they've seen the past reach out from the shadows. These aren't just battlefields, they're haunted echoes of history's bloodiest moments. Today we step into the fog of war and beyond. Before we start, if you happen to enjoy this video and find value in it, I would greatly appreciate it if you left a like so that more people may be able to find it. Additionally, if you don't want to miss out on more videos, why not subscribe? That way you will be notified every time I upload a new video. Let's get started now, shall we? To start this list, it wouldn't be a haunted battlefields video without mentioning Gettysburg. The Battle of Gettysburg fought from July 1st through 3rd, 1863. It stands as the turning point of the American Civil War and one of its bloodiest engagements. Confederate General Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia. They clashed with Union General George Meade's Army of the Potomac in the small Pennsylvania town after Lee's second invasion of the North. The three-day battle saw fierce fighting across key terrain features including Cemetery Hill, Little Round Top, and Culp's Hill, culminating in the disastrous Confederate assault known as Pickett's Charge on July 3rd. Lee's frontal attack across open ground against entrenched Union positions on Cemetery Ridge resulted in devastating casualties. It marked the high water mark of the Confederacy, with over 50,000 total casualties between both armies. Gettysburg proved to be Lee's most costly defeat, forcing his retreat back into Virginia, effectively ending Confederate hopes of winning European recognition or achieving victory on Northern soil. The battle's significance was later immortalized by President Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, delivered at the dedication of the National Cemetery that November. Gettysburg Battlefield is widely considered one of America's most haunted locations. With the immense trauma and loss of over 50,000 casualties in just 3 days, it created what many believe to be a powerful spiritual imprint on the land. Visitors and paranormal investigators have reported countless supernatural encounters, including apparitions of Civil War soldiers still patrolling the battlefield, phantom gunfire and cannon blasts echoing across empty fields, and the sounds of marching feet and distant battle cries. The infamous Devil's Den area is particularly active, with photographers frequently capturing unexplained figures in period uniforms, and witnesses reporting encounters with a ragged Confederate sniper who warns visitors away from dangerous rocks. The Jenny Wade house, where the only civilian killed during the battle died, is said to be haunted by her spirit, with guests reporting cold spots, moving objects, and the scent of fresh bread baking. Other frequently reported phenomena include the ghost of a young drummer boy near the triangular field, spectral cavalry charges witnessed at dawn and dusk, and the apparition of General Lee himself riding his horse Traveler along Seminary Ridge. The sheer scale of death and emotional intensity concentrated in this small area has created what paranormal researchers describe as a thin veil between the living and the dead, making Gettysburg a magnet for those seeking encounters with America's restless Civil War spirits. We're talking about haunted battlefields and the relics left behind, but what about the treasures you hold today? If you're a collector of rare or valuable trading cards, especially ones with a historic or legendary theme, Dragonscale makes premium protective cases to keep them safe from damage, decay, or time itself. Whether it's a prized war-themed set or a one-of-a-kind card you'd fight to keep, Dragonscale helps you display and defend it like it belongs in a vault. And if you use the code DRAGONFIRE10 at checkout, you'll get 10% off your order. I have a link in the pinned comment if you're interested. Now taking us to France, we have Verdun. The Battle of Verdun, fought from February 21st to December 18th, 1916. It was the longest and one of the bloodiest battles of World War I, representing Germany's strategic attempt to bleed France white through a war of attrition, German Chief of Staff Erich von Falkenhayn deliberately chose Verdun as his target, knowing the French would defend this ancient fortress city at all costs due to its symbolic importance to French national pride. The German assault began with a devastating artillery bombardment that fired over 1 million shells in the opening phase, followed by infantry attacks aimed at capturing the ring of forts protecting the city, including the key strongholds of Fort Douaumont and Fort de Vaux. The battle became a grinding meat grinder of attack and counterattack, with both sides feeding fresh divisions into the hellish landscape that was transformed into a moonscape of shell craters and mud. French forces, supplied by the famous Sacred Way supply route, managed to hold their defensive lines despite suffering enormous casualties, with the battle becoming a symbol of French determination and resilience. By December 1916, the French had recaptured most of the territory initially lost to the Germans, but at a horrific cost of approximately 300,000 dead and over 450,000 wounded from both armies combined. The battle's significance extended beyond its military outcome, as it became a defining moment of French national identity and demonstrated the futile brutality of trench warfare. While 9 entire villages were completely obliterated and never rebuilt, leaving only ghost towns as permanent reminders of the devastation. The Verdun battlefield is considered one of Europe's most spiritually charged locations, haunted by the enormous trauma of 300,000 French and German soldiers who perished during the Battle of 300 Days and Nights in 1916. The area still has that air of melancholy that leaves visitors a relentless, haunting image to last a lifetime. Even the seemingly serene rolling hills and valleys will give an unaware spectator that nagging sense of tragedy, creating what many describe as an overwhelming sense of presence rather than specific apparitions. The ossuary near Douaumont, even now smelling of death, rest the bones of 130,000 unidentified casualties from both sides, contributing to the battlefield's reputation as a place where the boundary between life and death feels particularly thin. Visitors report ghostly sounds of marching and whispers among the ruins and memorials, with the most commonly experienced phenomena being the phantom sounds of artillery bombardments echoing across the shell-cratered landscape, and the sensation of invisible soldiers still walking the trenches. The 9 destroyed villages that were completely obliterated during the battle, including Fleury, which was struck by 90,000 tons of bombs in one day. It now exists as ghost towns with only memorial stones marking where cafes and churches once stood. Unlike other haunted battlefields, Verdun's supernatural activity manifests more as an oppressive atmosphere of collective trauma than individual spirits, with visitors frequently reporting an inexplicable sense of sadness, cold spots in the underground tunnels of Fort Douaumont, and the feeling of being watched while walking through the preserved trenches where so many young men died in the mud. And finally, our journey takes us to Hürtgen Forest of Germany. The Battle of Hürtgen Forest, fought from September 19th to December 16th, 1944, was the longest battle on German ground during World War II, and it is the second longest single battle the U.S. Army has ever fought, after the 4-day-longer Battle of Bataan. The Battle of Hürtgen Forest was a campaign that could and should have been avoided. A campaign of prolonged and bitter attrition in which U.S. infantrymen were challenged by stubborn, unyielding defenders, rugged terrain, and appalling weather. The American objective was initially to pin down German forces while breaking through the Siegfried Line to reach the strategic Roer River dams. But American commanders, in particular, misunderstood the impassability of the dense Hürtgen Forest and its effects of reducing artillery effectiveness and making air or armored support impracticable. The 50-square-mile forest of densely packed fir trees became a hellish battlefield where temperatures in the Hürtgen remained near freezing, with a seemingly never-ending mixture of snow, sleet, and rain. And artillery slashes the trees like a scythe. Everything is tangled. You can scarcely walk. Everybody is cold and wet. The Americans suffered 33,000 casualties during the course of the battle, which ranged up to 55,000 casualties, included 9,000 non-combat losses, and represented a 25% casualty rate, while some individual regiments suffered devastating losses, with the 22nd suffered 2,773 casualties, or 80% of its normal complement of 3,257 soldiers, to take one village and 6,000 yards of forest. The battle ultimately ended in February 1945, when American forces finally captured the Roer dams, but not before the Germans had opened the floodgates, delaying the Allied advance into Germany by 2 weeks, and making Hurtgen Forest one of the most costly and tactically questionable American operations of the war. The Hurtgen Forest has earned a reputation as one of Europe's most spiritually disturbed locations, where the trauma of 88 days of brutal fighting has left an indelible supernatural imprint on the dark woodlands. In the pine-scented dusk of the Hurtgen Forest valleys, visitors and researchers report an overwhelming sense of unease that permeates the dense fir trees, where so many young soldiers died in agony. The forest's paranormal activity manifests primarily through auditory phenomena, with hikers frequently reporting the sounds of phantom artillery bombardments echoing through the trees, distant cries for help from wounded soldiers, and the ghostly rattling of equipment from invisible patrols still moving through the undergrowth. The most commonly reported experiences include sudden temperature drops in areas where fierce fighting occurred, the sensation of being watched while walking the forest trails, and the disturbing feeling of stepping over unmarked graves where hundreds of soldiers on both sides remain unaccounted for, and their remains continue to be found. Local guides and visitors have described encountering the spirits of both American and German soldiers, particularly near the remnants of concrete bunkers and pillboxes, where some claim to see shadowy figures in military uniforms moving between the trees at dawn and dusk, as if the battle for this green hell continues eternally in the realm of the dead. The dead may be buried, but history doesn't always rest in peace. These battlefields stand as reminders, not just of the blood spilled, but of the voices that never stopped echoing. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, one thing is certain: the past has a way of reaching into the present, especially in places where so much was lost. So the next time you walk a quiet field or feel a sudden chill, remember, some stories refuse to fade. Until next time.